Good afternoon, one and all. Good afternoon, Geoff.
Good afternoon, Ash. I thought it was my turn to start.
Well, it probably is, but I didn't want to. Didn't want us to be late, even by a few seconds. So
Good boy. Must
yeah.
must must be different time over there, is it?
Well, it's a different time than it is. Certainly in minutes.
The second hand.
Yes, yes.
I want a
So,
refund.
want a refund for what, mate?
On the weekend, I got no value out of it at all.
Oh, you didn't? Why not? What were you doing?
I nearly broke my toe.
Yeah.
I was on an excavator all day on Saturday. I think it was Saturday, yeah. And I was loading the excavator. No, I was unloading the excavator, or either one, can't remember. And the big ramp that you drive the excavator up onto the trailer fell off and went onto my foot, onto my toe. Oh, yes, limping all over the place all weekend.
Swearing, no doubt, as well.
No, no way.
That doesn't sound good, mate. That doesn't sound good.
No, it wasn't good. But that's why I want a refund. I want my toe back, basically.
Yeah.
Your big toe is a very big part of you. It keeps you balanced and all that.
Yeah, my brother broke his big toe. Yeah, you can't do anything about it either. Can you just got to wait for it to repair itself?
Excavator, was it?
Do you know what? No, I think he just got really drunk and kicked something he shouldn't have. I don't know what it was. I can't remember.
Oh, okay.
He jumped off a wall or something. I'm not sure what it was, but
right.
He was horsing around. Yeah.
Well, I guess that's got nothing to do with trading at the end of the day. Let's look a little bit of a weird week for me. We've still got a few things hanging over our heads, like, dare we mention it, the US elections. I'm not too sure how that's going to pan out, to be honest. Everyone that seems to be anybody is saying that's done and dusted. And I even heard overnight that Donald Trump put out a tweet. In fact, I saw the tweet, and the tweet said something like, he won because, and the whole world says, okay, that's a concession of defeat.
Yes.
And then where do people get this from? That's not what he meant at all.
I don't know, mate. I don't know. And let's have a look at the charts, because the thing with the election is that it just feels like a bit of a sideshow now. It doesn't really seem to carry the same importance anymore at this stage. I think that things could change, and they might change significantly, but at this stage, we don't seem to have anything too much to worry about with Donald Trump, because you look at the FTSE 100 on a weekly chart for right now. It's continuing to push higher and higher and higher. There's no risk off the market here. The risk is on. S&P is the same. In fact, let's just change it to a chart that we can actually check for the day. But this is the daily chart on the S&P. Yes, it looks like there could be some weakness and a bit of turning around at this point. It could start to, because that gap, it might start to create some sort of shooting star and then come down again. I think the FTSE looks a lot more bullish. We've had another day of a 1.5% to the upside today. The Nasdaq's the interesting one. The Nasdaq still looks like it could be just a little bit weak here. But what appears to be playing out right now is more to do with the pandemic than anything else, because the FTSE, the IBEX, and to a lesser degree the S&P will all do very well out of the vaccine, and the Nasdaq probably won't do as well. We traded that last week because of that particular thesis, and I haven't really changed my view on it. I think it's getting a little bit trickier now with the Nasdaq because of where it's come back to. I didn't really want it to come back quite as high as it has, but there is a hint here that there is some weakening here. I'm going to show you my other account as well, because Ethereum is something else that I'm trading. I am still in the FTSE, and the difficult thing for me with the FTSE is that I'm in down here. So we look at this on the daily chart. I'm in down here, but I can't add to my position. I've taken a little bit off the table, but I want to add now to the position, but I can't because it's just going too high. This area
not a bad problem to have, but yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Do you know, it's not. It's just a bit boring, I suppose, and it's maybe boring is the wrong word. It's just a bit. It's just not very exciting, really. I mean, it's, I want to be able to add to the position. So there's because I want to keep this lower one in. I've got no reason to kind of collapse it and sell it off, and I want to keep it all the way up here if I can. But I want another pullback so I can add again, and another pullback so I can add again. Because I'm looking at now at this as the overall target with the FTSE 100. Because I think next year, just looking at what some of the reports that are coming out next year should see further growth in global economies, and I think that the economies that were ravaged the most will benefit coming back, and the ones that benefited the most when it happened will probably start to come back, which is why I think the Nasdaq starts to look at a little bit more under pressure up here, and I'd quite like to see that the Nasdaq coming in the opposite direction. It is a difficult one to grab, though. It's a difficult one to trade. So I was going to talk about Ethereum. Ethereum's, similar in some respects. So I'm in Ethereum down here. And the good thing for Ethereum, for me right now, again, is something I want to add to. We can see that there is a potential pattern forming here that looks like it could give us an opportunity to get in long. Now, there may be an argument to try and get the short in first, maybe under that bar, but you can see that there's a head and shoulders pattern forming here. And the right shoulder, I'm not sure whether that gap in existence or not, and I'm not sure if Shukri's in. But if Shukri comes in later, maybe you'll let us know whether that gap appears or is real or not, because this data is from Friday to Monday rather than taking in the weekend. So there may well have been a genuine bar that got us down there. So actually, Shukri is there, not real. Okay, so we don't need to worry about the gap being filled. This is just all about the price action, and the price action just suggests that here we should be looking for downside on Ethereum, which is great. If we, if I want to get in another long, at least I've got a proper, a prospect of trying to get that long. But what I wouldn't mind possibly doing is trading it short and then trying to pick up the long for free. The ad point for free. And the good thing is when we're down, if you've got a position down here, as I have, then if I do trade this short and it takes off, it's not going to cost me anything but that extra profit that I would have made from that. It's a free position. It's a free move, if you like. I can take a free trade on this one, but I'm not sure if I'm going to do that or not. But what I'm waiting for with Ethereum, and as I say, maybe Shukri goes through this tomorrow, but what I'm waiting for with Ethereum is to really do the same as the global equities. If global equities are to weaken, I suspect cryptocurrencies might go with them. And it looks to me like cryptos might be the best source of a short rather than the global equities, because the global equities, apart from the Nasdaq, don't look that good. We go back to the FTSE. The global equities don't look that good for shorting. The trend to the upside is very, very strong. Any move to the downside might just get us back to a base point rather than, let's change it to a daily chart here, might get us down to this base point rather than taking us much, much higher. Much, much lower. So I am looking at Ethereum and wondering whether I need to play with it a little bit. And there's a possibility that I do that. Let's look at Bitcoin, and Bitcoin kind of gives us a slightly different story to Ethereum, which maybe stops the Ethereum trade being a sensible idea. It's not 100% clear whether this is going higher or lower, but Bitcoin is just about above that trend line right now, and it doesn't look like it's breaking down. So possibly if we see Bitcoin under this area here, under the 160 level, then there might be a short on. But in my opinion, it's a short to go long. I don't think we're looking for a change in direction here. Now we can cover some of the other aspects as well, mate. Just while I'm here, if that's okay. We were talking yesterday about King Dollar, weren't we? And we were on different camps with the dollar. I'm quite bullish on the dollar in the short term, at least, going up to Christmas potentially, but certainly to the end of the month. And some of the reason is that I just see a potential basing out. This is the dollar index, and this is the low point. Anybody that wasn't in the Sunday update yesterday, then I'm looking at this primary trend line.
You showed me yours, and I'll show you mine.
Okay, mate. Well, this is the primary trend line that I've got with the dollar. You know, it's moving higher and higher and higher. Now, this is the issue, undoubtedly, within this primary trend. The issue is here. If you take the closing prices into account, this looks like an equal high potentially. So depends how you look at it. But if we say that this is the base, there's the high, and there's a higher low, there's a higher low. It looks like equal lows. There's a new high, higher low. Looks like an equal low there, a higher high, and then we start to kind of go into a bit of a confused period here, because this looks like a low. This looks like a lower high, and what we're waiting for is a lower low. Now that lower low, to my mind, is here, and for that reason, I would like to see the dollar in the near term strengthen up to around about 96. Before selling it off. It's currently at 92.70. So I'd like to see some pullback in the dollar and then look for the short, rather than looking in this particular area, because I think this primary trend line is strong enough to hold it. I think that there are other issues that are out there, and I see the US economy in relatively good shape. Now, I think if people are rotating, a word that was used yesterday, if people are rotating out of the defensive area of the Nasdaq and moving into more expansive area like some of the value stocks, because the Nasdaq really is a growth story. The companies in the Nasdaq on the whole don't pay dividends, so they are all about growth. You know, the growth of the company. So in future times, then when the dividend is announced, then you know the guys that have managed to buy in at the right points during the growth will get a decent payout then. But some of the other stories are more about the growth stocks, and growth stocks are going to be, some of them are going to be in the likes of the FTSE, some of them are going to be in the likes of the IBEX. But more significantly, we should look at the growth stocks in America, because it's going to relate to what the American traders do with their money that they take out of the Nasdaq, and that's when we go to the Russell 2000. So if we look at the Russell 2000, it's very, very strong. Now, again, it's at a potential point of resistance. So the charts are saying sell zone, just like the charts on the dollar are saying buy zone. The question is, what pushes it up here for the dollar? And the question would be, with the Russell 2000, what pushes it back? Could be simply profit taking, but I think, again, anything that comes down is a buying opportunity. With the dollar, in some respects, I think anything that goes up is a selling opportunity, but not until I hit the 96 level. You know, until we get to that particular point, then I'm quite happy to back the dollar to the upside. If we couple that with risk on, risk off sentiment, the yen falls into the risk off sentiment, and that would give me a dollar yen long down here. Looks like it's basing out possibly down here. The one I like a little bit more is probably dollar Swissy. And look at what's happening with dollar Swissy. Now we've seen, now these are 2 monthly candles that are currently, the first one, the second one is currently in formation, but this is candle number 1, and look at candle number 1. Does candle number 2 look, in the end, look something like this? Because if it does, I think that's a fairly decent indication that possibly into the end of the year, the dollar is likely to rally. Does it end up looking something more like that? You know, does it end up closing near its highs on candle number 2? So a couple of weeks left to see, but if the dollar is bullish against the Swissy in the next couple of weeks, then I'd be a buyer of the dollar. And we could literally go down the list. I won't do that right now because I'm sure Geoff's got other things to say, but we could go down the list and see what other things would be interesting to trade against the dollar. But we are risk off, mate. And just going back to your initial kind of comment about the election, I don't even know whether it's currently relevant. Currently relevant. You know, currently relevant. Things change so quickly, and it will take Donald Trump just to do something naughty, which he's going to do. But I think at this particular stage, I just don't think it's relevant. I think this is all about vaccine.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the market's made up its mind about the election, and we've run that race until, as you say, something actually happens from a legal standpoint, or Well, not even or. If he concedes, the market's already said that. So
Yeah.
if he if he wins a court battle, then okay, all bets are off, and we change a little bit. I'm sure there'll be different scenarios, and the market will react in kind. But most definitely, I think at the moment you're right. I don't think the election is making any impact at the moment. It has done so, but I think from trying to trade from today into this week, I don't think we can really take that into consideration right now.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. But just to further the dollar index story, and I'll share my version, and I'm not arguing with you at all. What I am saying is this, though. I've got the same trend line that you've got. I think you can see my chart.
Yeah.
But I've also got a secondary trend line, which shows a breakdown and a retest of that trend line.
Yeah.
Now it's at a crucial horizontal level as well. I mean, that's pretty clear. And that level's been broken and retested as well. So my contention would be, if this doesn't go long now, then it's going short, and it's going short down to here somewhere. So my trade would be underneath that candle there. That's the monthly chart. The weekly chart's very, very similar. If I go to that, but it's got a better story for me. And I like the fact that we've got what I call a key reversal bar here, which is that bar right there on a weekly chart.
Yeah,
and
I see that.
It's followed by an inside bar here, which is also a rejection bar. A rejection of what? I'm not too sure, but perhaps it is that horizontal level, which is what, about 90, let's call it 93, for instance. No, it's not. It's not that high. It's about 90 to 75 or something like that. So again, my contention would be, if this is not going long, then there's a short order underneath that bar there. And I think you could probably, that's probably a better reward to risk trade if you're thinking of trade. I can't trade this because I haven't got a broker that trades the dollar index, but I can probably turn that round into something like euro dollar or something like
dollar Swissy.
Yeah. I can probably cross that into something else. So that's actually where I'm at. And looking at euro dollar, that chart's not telling me I'm ready to go long. So it's a tough one for me. But I can totally see that, if the long isn't happening, then the short is, and there's your entry right there. I like these bars. I like these key reversal bars.
I wonder whether we're kind of on the same page in some respects, and it's just about a matter of timing. I suppose maybe the timing thing, because I would also want to be short dollar into maybe next year at this stage, and I wonder whether my thesis of it goes up a bit more significantly from here before I go short is kind of the same as what you're saying, but you're saying it could go short from here. I don't think it could.
Pretty much.
I think it's more likely to rally from here. I
think your seasonals are probably telling you that as well, aren't they?
The seasonals, yes, the seasonals and the COT, but both the seasonals and the COT report are both saying dollar long at this particular stage. So yeah, and it's one of those, isn't it? It depends on what you rely on for your seasonals are dollar long. Yeah, Shukri's letting us know that too, and I think it does depend on what your it does depend on what you rely on to create your bias. Now, I don't really like to look at seasonals and COT data first to create my bias. I'd much prefer to look at something a bit more maybe, I don't know if significance is the wrong word, because that suggests that the seasonals and the COT data traders don't know what they're looking at, which is just not true. I just don't
current,
put that.
Maybe current's the word you're looking for.
Yeah, it's not in my when I do my process of analysis, it's not at the top of the list. It's further down, nearer the middle than it is at the top of the list. But it will back up certain things that I think. And Shukri's absolutely right. The seasonal pattern is for dollar long, and the seasonal pattern does suggest that the dollar does probably strengthen quite significantly. And this is the thing about the dollar at this particular time of the year as well, mate. From a middle of October right the way through to the middle of November, the dollar has its strongest period. Now, we haven't seen that happen, but what we have seen is a hold. And maybe the significance with this is that now into the last week of November, actually, the seasonal pattern on the dollar is extremely short, going right into December and into January, actually. So it might only be that the dollar will strengthen, for a week or so before I'd be changing my opinion. But I'd want to see the COT data agree with the seasonals, and they don't at this stage. The COT data and the seasonals agree that they're going up, but the COT data doesn't look like it's going to all of a sudden turn to downside next week, where the seasonals do. Suggest that we do get some weakness in the dollar going into December.
Just a matter of interest, and
yeah.
probably you haven't done any work on this. I'm sure you haven't actually, but it's just something that comes to my mind. If middle November is a seasonal bullish time for the dollar, how much weight is put on every 4 years for that, I wonder?
Really good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. No, I haven't done that, and that's probably something that Shukri knows more about than I do, actually. So what you're asking is what's the seasonally weighted significance of an election year for November?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that I don't know.
I would imagine it would be strong because it's a change, isn't it? It's a new certainty, I guess. Where
yeah, I mean,
leading into an election is uncertain. Coming out of an election is generally a certain time.
Well, this is the thing. Yeah, sorry, mate. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, but do you know, this is the thing that I always think about these currencies. First and foremost, is what drives it from a day to week to month to year level. Forgetting the seasonals and forgetting everything else, because the reason that the seasonals kind of kick in is, as much as anything else, due to kind of income tax getting collected by the powers that be. So for example, in the UK, if they collect income tax in March, then it's likely that that after that the government have some money to spend and splurge, so the pound is more likely to strengthen. So it's that kind of thing which starts to drive the seasonal patterns. Those kind of traditional things that happen. A stock, as an example, Apple always tend to release a product around about the November time period, just before Christmas. So seasonally, Apple will probably start to rally around about October into Christmas. So it's those sort of those things that happen every year for a stock or a country that tend to drive things like the seasonal patterns. But there are years where those things don't have the same impact. That's a normal year in a normal kind of cycle. Those things the seasonals will play a part. But on a year like this year, things change quite significantly. And the dollar specifically becomes a very, very difficult one to trust with seasonal charts, in my opinion. So I will look at the seasonal pattern in this particular example, but that's why it comes down my list on my check sheet. That's why I'm not so interested in what the seasonals are telling me. I wouldn't just trade around the seasonals. I'd say things are doing this. That's kind of normal. The seasonal pattern shows that, which is showing me what on average the dollar does over a period of time at this time of year. So that's worth trading. But I think this particular year has been very, very different for most things.
To say the least.
To say the least, yeah. So so I don't know whether the seasonals play quite as big a part, or whether they play quite as big a part for my decision making this year as it would be for me to listen to what will Biden do, what's going to be his first play when he's in office, what does Jerome Powell's relationship with Biden look like, what does a vaccine look like for the US dollar. As well, because that's going to play a part as well. All economies have been projected to shrink this year, and that's it's going to happen, obviously, but you know
Yeah.
the genius is how much, I suppose. It's like it's not very astute to say, well, this country's going to, you know, the GDP is going to shrink. We know that, but what it's going to come down to is that you need the clever accountants to go, this is how much they're going to shrink, this is how much they're going to shrink, this is how much they're going to shrink, and this is what I predict their bounce back to look like. And the bounce back looks pretty good for the US. Actually, one of the best bounce backs. Now that should strengthen the dollar. You know, if we're sort of like thinking about next year, that should strengthen the dollar. And I want to hear more from Jerome Powell. What's his take right now? What's his real play? You know, on things, because if the dollar sticks here, I mean, what one thing we haven't considered, mate. We've been talking about the fact that if the dollar doesn't go up here, it's going down. Well, there's another possibility. What if it just doesn't move for 2 months?
Well, that's entirely possible, isn't it? I mean, it seems to have settled around about the 93 mark. There's no question there, and that range between 102 and 93 is firmly established now, going back to 2015 even. So well, technically there's a bounce on here, but we have had this nice little break as well. I totally see that can be the case, and whilst ever we've got a situation that is uncertain, we'll probably get some volatility, and the uncertainty still exists, in my humble opinion anyway, around COVID, certainly around the election. Don't mention the election, don't mention the war. There's also trade wars, there's all sorts of things going on underneath the major events, if I can call them that. That still promote uncertainty as far as I'm concerned. And whilst ever that's the case, yes, I think there's a sideways price action for quite some time. It'll be volatile up and down, within 100 or 200 pips, but I think we've probably got a reversion to the mean mentality going on at the moment, and I'm not sure what changes that, to be honest. Maybe it is the vaccine, Pfizer's vaccine is the only one that works, and if that's the case, then yes, we've got a massive positive for the US, most definitely. I don't know what the next thing is. I really don't, to be honest.
No, well, and this is why I think actually taking any positions, generally speaking, this week is going to be tricky. Now, I don't want to bring you onto this subject so late in the game, because I know we've only got a minute and a half left in this particular side of the show. But I wouldn't mind covering the Aussie for that very reason, because we are going to be talking about, and the CAD actually, we're going to be talking about what's likely to move this week. We just talked about the dollar, and I think maybe we can both settle on the fact that the likelihood that we get a protracted move this week is diminished. It's not unlikely necessarily, but it's quite low that we get a protracted move this week. I'm comfortable enough to say that I would be happy to buy the dollar here, looking for a bit of a rally. But this week it just doesn't look like it's on. I mean, if anything, the markets will probably just continue to ease forward until they reach their other levels, the likes of the FTSE and the IBEX, likely to move forward until they reach their significant levels. Then we pause for a bit and possibly get the pullbacks then. The dollar's kind of doing the same, just tapping its feet and banging its head, but not really going anywhere. But I think the Aussie is a different story, and I think potentially the yen could be a different story, and the CAD could be a different story. So let's come out of the room here and go into the other room, and we'll talk about those particular things. SF gold as well, really interesting one, isn't it? And this is the thing about the dollar. If the dollar is to strengthen, we're likely to see weakness in the yen, weakness in the Swissy, and weakness in gold. Gold is, in my opinion, a definite long, but I don't think it's from here. I want gold, but I want gold to come lower first. Who was trading? Was it Alan? Who was trading gold short? Was it USF? Somebody was trading gold. It might have been Sui, actually. Somebody was trading gold. There's Fad. Went for everyone, but Fad. Fad, yeah. So you were trading it short, weren't you? And then and we were looking for that potential bounce, and you picked the level to a pinpoint accuracy, mate. It was absolutely brilliant. You got the bounce level, and the question is, are you going to get back in? But we'll talk about that question in the next section. But thanks, guys, for popping into the 1:30 show. I call it 1:30. I know that doesn't mean anything to you guys, but it's 1:30 over here, which is 9:30. Sing.
It'll be 1:30 in 45 minutes for me, but that's tomorrow. We'll talk about that later. All right, we'll pause here and come back with the US session proper very, very shortly. Thanks for those who tuned into the YouTube show. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, guys. You're on tunes, are you, Geoff?